It's the Security Weekly News. Welcome to the week of 30 September. Actually, it's the week of 28 September 2025. I'm Doug White, and welcome to the show. And September is ending. You know, it's that time of year when spirit stores are opening temporarily in that old porno theater, and people are forced to take down their St. Bartholomew's Day decorations and put up giant anatomically correct skeletons. You don't buy non-anatomically correct skeletons. It's just insulting to. We've got Attica, Crustacean Porn, Broadcom, William of Ockham, Jaguar, SVG, Aaran Leyland, and more on the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Ransomware, supply chain attacks, 0 days, cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your defenses. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our Zero Trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots, just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/threatlocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock. Yeah, all right, I'm Doug White, and it's the Security Weekly News. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment, or you may find yourself being used as a model for a skeleton decoration. A model, right, yeah. Doc McKee's used ossuary, gently used skeletons, artifacts, and relics at low, low prices. Yeah. All right, Broadcom, whose corporate logo is now the Death Star. I gotta be careful about that. We'll get some kind of copyright. I'll get a cease and desist order from whoever owns that. Damn you, John Williams. But anyway, Broadcom released security updates for high severity flaws in VMware NSX, which were reported by the U.S. National Security Agency, or the NSA, as everybody knows it. Now, NSA and NSX are not the same thing, so be careful. NSX is not the adult version of NSA. But NSX is a networking virtualization solution within the VMware Cloud Foundation. So if you use it, you probably know what it is. But both of the flaws, I mean, they sound kind of bad, but they're basically valid username enumeration vulnerabilities, which means that there's some mechanism by which you can determine if a username exists or not. And I presume it would have to be scripted, so you could try lots of them. I'm not sure. They didn't really give that many details. I guess I could have gone and read the CVEs. But this basically would allow somebody to generate a list of valid usernames on a domain, which is, you know, half the equation in a brute force attack. The fact that the password is Gandalf Frodo probably helps too. But a patch yesterday corrected, this was yesterday's patch, an SMTP header injection vulnerability in vCenter, which would allow an attacker with non-admin privileges to create scheduled tasks, which sounds a lot worse. And that would actually allow them to schedule tasks that would manipulate notification emails sent for a scheduled task. So yeah, that sounds pretty bad. Now, in the same advisory today, 3 more flaws were disclosed in VMware ARIA operations and VMware tools. I've never used ARIA operations, but I have used VMware tools a lot, as most anybody has. But these can be exploited to escalate privileges to root, steal credentials, and access guest VMs. So very bad. I think the point would be don't expose your VM interfaces, and especially your management and baseboard interfaces, and work on your patching plans. You know, patching VMware or any other hypervisor is super challenging. And as you can see, there's, you know, been a lot of patches in a couple of days. So you'd be better off if you weren't exposing any interfaces, so that even if you have these vulnerabilities, there's not much way to get to them. So think about that. Occam's razor says the simplest solution is probably the best. Actually, what he said was, Entia non sunt multiplicanda praeter necessitate. Or maybe it was Romani ite domum. Well, it was the 14th century, so whatever William of Ockham said, it was probably in Latin with a Scottish accent. Or It might have been, this wound doesn't seem to be healing. More leeching for me. Anyway, attackers from Medusa ransomware didn't bother with complicated attacks. They just cut to the chase and tried to bribe a BBC correspondent to be their insider. The gang wanted to use Joe Tidy, BBC correspondent, and have his laptop be used to breach the BBC and ask for a ransom. Now, the BBC is going to have to auction off a bunch of old Daleks and Cyberman costumes to make ends meet if this comes true. But Tidy was supposed to get 15% of the ransom for providing initial access, and was told, and in this article, they had all these texts between him and these other people, but he was going to get 15% of the multi-million-dollar ransoms. And he was originally contacted in July via Signal by someone called the Syndicate, who tried to arrange this whole operation. Then when he didn't go for it, they offered 10% more, so 25% of the ransom. And then they later offered him $55,000 worth of Bitcoin just as a sort of guarantee he would get paid. They were going to put that in escrow or something. But Medusa, if you're not familiar with them, has conducted more than 300 attacks in the United States and numerous attacks in England. So, I don't know about this. I mean, it starts to be in this sort of anti-espionage kind of things, because you've never had a disgruntled employee, right? I mean, somebody who would have taken this money and turned, just said, here you go. I wrote some code once that monitored a database of people's bank balances. We had the right to do that at that location. And we could see, what your average bank balance looked like, because originally they just went for people with low balances. But I was like, that would be me all the time. But maybe we should look more at trends. Are people going from having, $50,000 in their checking account to having nothing? It might be a symptom of a problem. Or going from nothing to having $50,000 a week being deposited in your checking account. You know what I mean? Well, maybe William of Ockham was onto something. So I think at least the ransomware people are picking up on it. Speaking of doing whatever works, people always want something for nothing, right? I mean, it's basically the essence of every single scam. I mean, even if you can afford to buy a copy of that film, it just feels better to watch the movie recorded on a phone in a theater live. But I mean, Ware's sites have drawn in more than a few victims over the years, and a campaign that started on Facebook promises free access to TradingView Premium, and it is now spread to Google Ads and YouTube. Now, if you don't know, TradingView is a popular financial analysis platform. I don't get those ads, being a college professor and all. They're like, wow, I get the ads for like free government cheese. But, so some of you and your employees may get this kind of targeted ad. But I mean, my StarTrek.com gag was a Ware's approach like this, only this one doesn't erase your 5 megabyte hard drive, but rather downloads JSSeal, I don't know how to say it, JSCEAL malware. And the attackers also use PostHog, Facebook pixel tracking, Google Ads, conversion tracking, Microsoft Ads pixel tracking, and Ad Profile to track whether the victim came from an ad or there's somebody else trying to get to this site, in which case they get sent to some benign content. Well, they have better marketing than where I work. But the attacker owns more than 500 domains and subdomains and thousands of Facebook pages and publishes hundreds of new ones every single day. So I don't know. This is a tough one. You probably need to manage social media trust and actions and make sure they can't download from stray links. You need to warn your users if someone's giving you something for free or even at a huge discount, it's probably not actually free. Well, I mean, StarTrek.com was free. Free fun game. Play as Scotty, Kirk, Bones, or Spock, and many adventures. Download now. Yeah, exactly. In that same light, Amatera Stealer, which is an info stealer, and Pure Miner, which is a crypto miner, are being spread through an email campaign which uses this same old scalable vector graphics attachment approach. So these SVG files are a similar trick to this ad campaign. And they basically, I don't know, maybe I should send out SVG files promising free copies of TradingView Premium, right? Instructions within, click here. But this one has been targeting Ukrainian users, but could obviously spread to everyone else. And the emails show up from the National Police of Ukraine and warn you not to ignore the attached notice, like all those, toll warnings and parking citation notices I get from New York City. telling me, if you ignore this, your car will be towed. And, I'm like, well, my car's not there, so good luck with that. But the attachment in this case grabs another SVG file from an external website because it actually has a link inside of it that's a frame. It's an HTML frame element. So the second one then pops open an Adobe Reader window that loads it says loading police notice and has a button to download the file. And my impression was that it's sort of blurry and you can't really read all of it. So they're saying, download the whole file here. And of course the file is malware, and they do use this Amatera stealer and get all your credentials, and then they put PureMiner on your system. So, hey, not only are they abusing your credentials, they'll let you mine crypto for them. So the point is, your users are being bombarded with these things in all manner, shape, size, and so forth. Greed, fear, lust. What are the other 7 deadly sins? Envy, pride, gluttony, anger, and sloth. Yeah. I'm doing pretty good, actually. I think I get most of those in before lunch, but lust takes a little longer these days. Well, all these things are lures, and they work. So they have been working since Thag sold Grob a bunch of rocks that had shiny things inside once they're broken open, but they were actually just saber-toothed tiger poop. So train and train often. Exercise the training and then train some more, because you got to make them so paranoid they cower in their cubicles holding a pitchfork all night. So you just can't. Yeah, they don't let me work over there anymore. But I mean, you get the idea. I wasn't going to do this story, but I came back to it because it made me think about something. I was reading the story from the headline, and then I went, it's just kind of I don't know, but it made me think about something. How does your organization manage cloud-based computing costs? So the threat of this. I mean, we've all been in projects that had cost overruns, right? I mean, I worked for the government, but we all have them. That new UI that was promised by marketing last quarter that is now $1 million in overruns and still requires someone to type the information on the left terminal into the right terminal because no one realized that AS400 was EBCDIC and IBM PC was ASCII 2. Yeah, I actually saw that system once. But think about cloud. I mean, when I first started trying to pursue this in my very simple world compared to most of you, the first place I ran into problems was accounting. Accounting said, buying an $80,000 piece of hardware server is a capital project. We have money for that. But buying $80,000 worth of AWS time that students could use, we have no idea how we would get that money. And it's not the same money. And we can't just convert a capital project into AWS and so on and so forth. So it was never allowed to be done. Now, as you do this and you move everything off that old HP ProLiant DL980, if you know what one of those things is, or the AS400 840, yeah. I mean, that thing put out more smoke than a coal-fired electric plant. I think it ran, I mean, the 840s were just like, fire it up. Yeah. But I mean, you move it all to the cloud. So, you don't have all this big iron sitting around. And of course, the cloud computing is just a fancy way of saying someone else's hardware or timeshare, right? But it's not, we can't say those things anymore because it's totally different. Totally different. It's the cloud. CompuServe is not the cloud, right? Okay, keep telling yourself that. But what happens when old Gil spins up 35 instances using a flawed script and leaves them all running for the whole quarter to mine crypto, and the bill is now 25 times what you thought? I mean, I know. They have all these fancy budget controls and limitations, and I just hope you have that all set up correctly. I mean, people can't even secure a bit bucket. Can they actually define all these things properly? I went to like a training thing from Azure, and they were trying to explain to me how I would, put caps and all this stuff. And it was like, wow, I'll need 2 lawyers, an accountant, and I don't know, a staff of interns. But this is a threat. It is the future. You are going to want it, and it's something you're going to have to figure out. So it might be a good time to start, meeting with your accounting people and going, how do we do this? How do we convert from buying big iron to using the cloud? Because I was told it couldn't be done. Why hasn't somebody bought me a nice Jag? Like, I don't know, like a 1963 E-Series OTS or an iPace. I'll take the modern or the old. I don't care. I mean, I'm an influencer. Come on. I influence people. They listen to me. Well, the UK government announced a £1.5 billion loan guarantee for Jaguar Land Rover in response to a very naughty cyber attack on the car company. I guess your suppliers get kind of nervous when you're down and out. and down and more down and still down and maybe next month. So the government basically said, we'll pay. I mean, Jaguar Land Rover is like 34,000 employees at Jaguar, and then 120,000 or more or so in the supply chain that are all going to be out of work if this thing folds up. So it's a bailout. So JLR had no cyber insurance, according to an insurance news website called The Insurer. Yeah, I bet that's a barrel of laughs. But JLR, which is owned by the Tata Group, was targeted by Scattered Spider back in August, and the attacks brought, according to them, severe disruption that persisted until late September, when they said they had, quote, managed to restore sections and that production would resume on 1 October. Other British companies like Co-op and Marks and Spencer have reported hundreds of millions in losses to Scattered Spider already this year. So, are all of you convinced that your government will shell out 1.5 billion pounds to save you? So maybe some cyber insurance, some hygiene, and don't trust cyber insurers if they just have those little forms that you sign that say we're doing good things, and then they say excellent and stamp it approved. Yeah, because they never audit or test your stuff or anything. So you lie and say you're doing things that you're not doing, and guess what? They're going to take that apart when you file a claim. And they're going to go, well, you said right here that you did this, and you didn't actually do it. So they just take your premiums, and then they don't pay. So be careful who you go with. You lied on your form, you're done. Yeah, some of you rich types should buy me an iPace. Come on. I mean, for you guys, it's like buy me a free cab ride. I can wait till they get production going again. Those are nice. I like them. OpenAI induced parental controls on ChatGPT this week. I guess these could be corporate controls as well. You could force your people to participate. The new features, though, were the result of a wrongful death suit that was filed by the parents of a 16-year-old who died back in April as a result of it, at least according to the suit, based on ChatGPT's advice. ChatGPT had provided this 16-year-old with information about self-harm. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because I don't want to end up getting people upset. But I mean, part of me is like, yeah, but Google works pretty well for that as well. So, and why not Edge? Why not Bing? But I mean, I don't know that these parental controls really help very much. Parents have to, in this case, parents have to get their children to link their own ChatGPT accounts to the parent's account. And then the parents have some measure of control, such as when they can use it, reduction of sensitive content, and control of other features. Of course, when the parents are going, hey, Jimmy, get in here and help us set up this parental control on your ChatGPT. I don't know what ChatGPT is, but I'm pretty sure it's bad. I'm not trying to be glib about, such a horrible thing that happened to this poor person, really. I mean, that's awful. But I do think that parents and organizations should be careful that they don't put too many eggs in one basket, as they say. I mean, people, and by people, I mean, young people, find ways around these controls pretty quickly, like ants getting into your kitchen. I mean, you don't want your kid to learn about fossils, so you send them to a school that doesn't teach about fossils and teach fossils are lives. They burn all the books in your house about fossils and block the words sexy trilobite, naughty trilobite, and onlycrustaceans.com and hot pterodactyl summer, so that, guess what? Junior hacks the net nanny and finds a way around it, or just jumps on Tommy Liotta's Wi-Fi next door, which, is wide open and whose parents don't care about much of anything. I mean, your kid could even create other accounts so that now you have MD 2020 for mom and dad and Dirty Auto for yourself. And you connect using that on one ChatGPT account and another one. And you go on the first ChatGPT account and just always, type in, how do I pray more effectively? Meanwhile, on Dirty Auto, who knows what's going on? So I don't know. I worry about these people presenting things like this as a panacea. So be careful out there. My favorite person who dressed as a crustacean is Aaran Leyland. So I'll welcome him. Hi, Aaron.
Yeah, don't get Sam talking about seaweed, or she'll start messaging me again, and then the
Oh dear,
conversation
yeah,
will
we're
go
not going
round
there.
and round and round and never stop. Okay, right. I'm going to get straight into this because I've got too many words as always, right? So, the title of this on the BBC was Children's Names, Pictures, and Addresses Stolen in Nursery Chain Attack. So, super emotive today that has people virtue signaling all over social media. The hack of Kiddo, which is a weird name, by the way, by Radiant, self identified as Radiant, by the way, which to me is so much better than trying to remember 5 or 6 different names for the same group. But let's not unpack anyone trying to attribute anything to anyone that's serious about anything, as this is like super subjective. Other than that time the Dutch hacked the cameras of Cozy Bear, APT 29 or whatever they're called, because right, anyway, stop the madness and stop calling things a million names, and just call it the Russian government, right? That's just easier anyway, off my soapbox, back to the story that's generating more social media posts than like that time that people actually died from cyber. But I do understand, and maybe this is the type of public outcry that we actually need to make tangible change in cybersecurity, because like the kids make change, right? Because they're the future. Okay, right. I'd never heard of these people, and I'm sure they did not exist on many radars. Um, New name. Well, is it a new name, or is it just someone that is there that's in Russia that spun up some servers controlled out of Russia? I would guess assume, but anyhow, right. Radiant, self-named, quite credibly from what I've seen so far, claim that they pulled pictures, names, and home address for roughly 8,000 children from a nursery chain with 18 sites around London, with apparently operations in the US and India. So they're quite big. And it's a weird spora, but anyway, they posted a sample, 10 kids, full profiles on their Tor site to prove it, but they've emailed and phoned parents directly, and they're because like it's the kids, they're not saying like it's like ransomware and stuff. They're saying that they pen test it and they're now asking for compensation. But anyway, you're evil, Radiant, you're just evil. But anyway, it does feel like a new low, and does highlight that everyone needs to take data security seriously. Parents and nurseries were apparently notified quickly, in some cases, it said, but publicly, from research today anyway, the company's been quite quiet. The Met Police got referred on the 25th of September, and the ICO that looks after GDPR in Europe's been notified. And the NCSC, which is the like suit wearing, not me, corporate side of GCHQ, which is like the NSA, called it deeply distressing. Great quote, rubbish quote. So Checkpoint called it a new low, rubbish quote. I need better quotes. Okay, so criminals haven't suddenly developed a conscious deficit. It's like, but what it does say is the tradecraft is hitting like a proper pressure point. It's like going straight in for the kids, right? It's like, so why is it different? Not payroll, not supplier data, kids' actual like photographs linked to names and postcodes, plus claims of safeguarding notes. So, like, literally pictures of kids and their addresses and sort of maybe any safeguarding issues they might have. Has been leaked on a site. Look, problem here is there's like a whole kid's childhood here of doxing, stalking, social engineering against carers, and it literally just like stealing a kid's identity. So impact window, not 30 days. I think I pulled this out of somewhere, but could be a childhood, right? So they're saying Radiant is new. Russia, maybe. Russia. But the playbook is familiar. Smash and grab, drip a sample, message victims directly, frame it as responsible testing. It's like, yeah, whatever. And hint that demand is not enormous. The innovation here is the target selection and the direct, like literally phoning them up, emailing them, direct to parent intimidation. So expect copycats to hit schools, special education needs providers, ed tech, SaaS that aggregate child records. If you run this sort of stuff in your stack, you need to get on it because people are going to care about it, especially parents. And there's nothing scarier than parents. They're much scarier than the regulators, right? Okay, right. Quick solutions. Going to smash through this. Separate sensitive data. Keep children's not a word, is it? Photos, addresses, and safeguarding records in completely separate systems with different keys and access controls. If they're stored together, well, that's bad, right? Encrypt safeguarding data, apply field level encryption to safeguarding information, use client controlled keys. Like, if the vendor can see it, you're doing it wrong. So think about that. Stop hoarding data. Don't keep large galleries of child photos for convenience. Store only what's absolutely necessary. Think about putting it at a lower resolution and delete it quickly when it's not needed. If it is needed for legal reasons, store it offline, non-networked. Know your vendors. Make sure you're up-to-date inventory, who manages it, what they can do. SFTP with IP allow lists, rotate credentials, remove old API tokens. Look, watch for data theft. This is all your DLP stuff. This is bread and butter for us. Large PDF exports, big archive files, block nested archives, so your zips inside your RARs, and flag transfers with lots of file images. Look, if this does happen, you're going to need to have a really good comms plan, and you're going to need to speak to parents and police and ICO really quickly. But top tip, handle the extortion part smartly. You literally can't negotiate with someone that's threatening to publish a child's address and photos. So think more about how you would remove it. Track the post, push takedown, look at the providers that can pull this down. Context matters. As Doug was talking about a minute ago, JLR, Jaguar Land Rover, retail disruptions and M&S co-op, 9-figure costs. Public patience is gone. It's all over the media. Literally, people that aren't anything to do with tech are talking about it to me recently. It's like, that's why this is like all over social media, LinkedIn, everything. It's just detonated all beyond our industry. Family pressure and extortion is a problem because it works. You need to completely look at your data flows. It's like, you should not be in the position of your fault that a child's face is on the internet with their home address and safeguarding information. So just don't do it. Think of the kids. Now back to the old kid on the block. Hang tough, Dr. Doug.
Yay. Thank you, Aaron. I agree. That stuff is very, very concerning. And I know a lot of schools and things just don't have much in the way of security. And I know, that's been used for phishing attacks because they targeted us because somehow they were getting information out of my daughter's school and they had a lot of personal information. So yeah, it's all a very big problem. So thank you very much. If you're programming autonomous vehicles, I mean, like actually teaching them to drive, I mean, you got to teach them how to bang a UE on Hanover Street. Come on, or how you get air on Taylor Street. I mean, that was one of the first places I ever went in San Francisco was Taylor Street to see where they filmed Bullet. I mean, I mean, come on. I mean, and everybody's thought about banging a UE on Hanover when the traffic was bad. I mean, so Waymo. I mean, I like my Waymo car. It was polite. It wasn't hosed down in cologne to disguise the BO that they couldn't get out of the car seats or whatever. I mean, it didn't rant about liberals the whole drive. It didn't try to convert me to another faith. It was polite. I mean, but that don't mean it can't get down and dirty when the need arises, right? I mean, if I tear $100 bill in half and say, if you get me to LaGuardia in 25 minutes, you get the other half, and watch my driver use sidewalks, front lawns, the median, I don't know, alleys to get you there, right? I mean, you need to program that in. Well, anyway, during a DUI operation in California, which sounded a little strange in and of itself, officers apparently pulled over a Waymo car. And I'm like, wait, what? But then they said that the vehicle did an illegal U-turn at a light. probably because there was a big traffic snarl from them doing DUI, stops. So the car just said, well, hey, I'll bang it. What any other human would have done, right? It's like, oh, there's a bunch of crap up there. I'm going to turn around and go the other direction. But when officers approached the vehicle, which did not run from the blues, mind you, the Waymore car said, "You never take me alive, copper! 50 screws, 50 screws, Attica, Attica, Attica." Well, that's what it would have done if I had coded it, but apparently it was very polite. But the officers didn't know what to do because they couldn't issue a citation to a car with no driver. And apparently there wasn't a box on their form that said robot. So they didn't know what to do. I don't know. Maybe they let it go with a warning. I mean, a guy jaywalked in front of my Waymo car in San Francisco and my car stopped. Any good Boston cab driver would have run that clown down in the dirt. But Waymo apologized to me for the rough ride. A pedestrian has leapt in front of our vehicle. And I was wanting a little box to pop up, go run them down, give way. I'm like, run them down, run them down. But California does have a bill in place now that allows police to issue notices to driverless cars, but it doesn't go into effect until 2026. Attica. Yeah, lots of movie references there if you didn't pick that up, but you can research it on your own with ChatGPT if they haven't put too many guardrails around you. But anyway, that is the news. Thank you, Aaron, and we will see you next time on the Security Weekly News. Attica.